Hello, Gary Simon here, designcourse.com. Today we're going to move into part 2 of the Unity Room tutorial. I'm not sure what else to call it. But yeah, today we're going to be focusing on Photoshop and actually designing the textures. Alright, so if you need access to the project files, they're available for free in the description below this video. And also, if you haven't yet, subscribe here on YouTube. Alright, let's get started. Alright, so in Photoshop, let's go ahead to File, Open, and we will open up our 2 UV PNG files. Alright, so the first one we're going to work with are the wall UV layout. Oops. Alright, and what we want to do is first we'll just kind of fill this in with a gray color, the background. So this layer 0 right here is our actual UVs. So what we want to save is, let's call this UV, and we'll create a new layer, Control Shift and N. And also, by the way, when you open up or go to File, New, and if you have your background content set to transparent, as I always do, when you open up a file like that, it may have a background that's white, so that's why. All right, so anyhow, create a new layer, Control Shift and N, and we'll name it Background. And we will fill this in with a color, just a mid-gray color right around there, just like that. Okay, so obviously, when we specify 25% when we exported that UV layout from Blender, we can see that, it's not too, I guess you could say, there's not a lot of contrast. So we can still basically see what's going on. Also, it's also very large. We're only at 25%. This is it at 100%. But I'm just going to go back and just go to fit on screen here. All right, so what we want to do now is actually import a metal texture. So I've used cgtextures.com in the past, and I'm going to do it now. And basically, if you go to cgtextures.com, we have all these different texture categories that we can go for. If we click on metal, and we click on bear, and we click on this right here, I'm going to be using this image 1 right here. And as you can see, it's kind of split up into 2 different panels, and it kind of just has the same basic shape as our UVs, so for our walls basically. So you can log in, create a quick account, it's free. And if you want something like a really massive size, you have to become a premium member, but we don't need that. So remember, our document's 2048 by 2048, and this extends beyond that, so that's just fine. And so if you click that, it will download it. Now you can see I've already downloaded it once. Once you have that downloaded, go ahead and open it up in Photoshop. Just like that. And we're going to take the rectangular marquee tool and just select around here and just to right around there on that crease. And we don't want any of the grass or anything in there. So hit Control C to copy. We'll close that out. And what we want to do is basically create a layer kind of for each one of these sections. All right, so obviously some of these UVs do overlap, but that's really not too big of a problem. It'll make our time go quicker if we were to try to do every single one of those. So what we want to do is go ahead and take this tool right here, the magic wand tool. We'll left click. I guess we can start, I'm going to start right here in the middle just because it seems like it's the biggest one. And I'm going to go ahead and hit Control, Shift, and N for a new layer. Hit OK. And what I'm going to do is just fill it in with our background color, the same color as back here. And then I'm going to hit Control, Shift, N for a new layer and make it a clipping mask. All right, so now anything that goes inside this layer will only be visible in the area in which we filled. So we can hit Control D or Command D to deselect, and then we'll have this right here. So remember, we already copied the metal texture, so all I have to do is just hit Control V, paste that in, and now we're going to have to do some work in terms of scaling it down. So I'm going to hit Control T, Shift and Alt, and obviously the height needs to be at least the same height as the area we filled in, and we just kind of want to get some of the portions where it shows the panels connecting pretty much in line with the very right and left side. So I'll show you how we'll do that. I'm going to zoom up here. And I'm just going to move this over. I may hit Control T real quick and fix that by hitting, just rotating it slightly. So right there looks pretty good. And now if we wanted to make another panel like right here, what we're going to have to do is duplicate that. So Control Shift D. And now I've set a shortcut for that. If you don't have that shortcut set up, you can just go to Edit Preferences, Shortcuts, and set that up, or you can just right click and duplicate layer. So from now on, I'm just going to use the shortcut. And then now what I'm going to do is go ahead and flip this horizontal. Well, actually, we don't have to flip it horizontal. I'm sorry. We can just move this over here, just like that. And then, just so we can see the other side over here, I could just take this with the rectangular marquee tool, select somewhere in the middle, hit delete, and then take the eraser tool with a soft feathered brush, right around there, about 90 pixels. Hold your left mouse button, drag down, hold shift, so you can go down perfect angle. So now it looks like it's an actual, single panel that is the width of this area. All right, so now what we want to do is go back to our UV layout, click on there, create a new layer, Control Shift N, give it our background color, Control D to deselect, and now to make things a little bit quicker, we can just duplicate these layers, Control Shift and D, move them up here, right click, create clipping mask. And now you can see we have this situation going where it's basically pretty much correct, at least on this side. So obviously, if we were to do this and just keep on doing that for every single one of these, it really wouldn't look right, because it would just look like it's, there wouldn't be any variance. It would all look like a pattern. So that's the issue I'm going to address when it comes to the portion after I replicate all these into each one of these rectangles. So for now, I'm not going to worry about that. What I want to do is just make sure that we can see both sides of the actual panel and replicate it for all the rest of these. So I've paused and kind of fixed this one over here. You don't always have to. Another way to create variance, though, is to go to Edit, Transform, Flip Horizontal on this top layer over here. And you can either use this side, although you can see it's basically this being flipped, or you can just come over here to... Oh, I deleted it, that's why. Well, never mind. No big deal. I'm just going to bring this back over here. Now that's flipped. And I'm going to show you just one more time before I pause it and then just do them all myself, because that would be really boring to watch every single one of these. So we just select the layer. We'll fill it in after creating a new layer. Oops, Control Shift N. Paste that in, or fill it in rather. And we'll take, you can use either or. I'm just going to use the bottom ones, duplicate those. Move them up top, right click, create clipping mask, and get these moved into place. So we basically have two layers to worry about. We have this one, that's this layer. This one over here is the other one. So we just move this over. Actually, that's, let me see here. There we go. That's this one. And then this one, we can move like right there. And that's all it's going to be composed of for doing it for the rest of these panels. All right, so keep on doing that process, and then you can come back, and then we'll start on making, well, basically it's going to consist of primarily using this clone stamp tool just to change these textures around on each one of these. So I'm going to go ahead and pause. All right, so I've done it to all these, and we can see basically they all look a lot alike. So there's several different ways that we can really just adjust these to make them look different. So the first way is just to use, well actually I would say before using the clone stamp tool, we could use flip. So a lot of these, if we just take the layer, well just one of the random layers you created, go to edit, transform, flip vertical, we've now kind of moved some things around. So if we just take any just random number of these, as you see, I'm just holding Control and left clicking some of these. Edit, transform, flip vertical. Now we've changed them up, some of these at least. All right, so now let's go ahead and we'll start from left to right. So for this one, we don't have to really make any adjustments. For this one, and also to select a layer, if you don't have auto select layer, all you have to do is just hold Control or Command and then left click. So it automatically selects that layer. All right, so I'm gonna work with this layer right here. And we can see there's certain areas where it has kind of like a circle all throughout. So if you wanna change things up, all you have to use is the clone stamp tool. And for some reason, it's not showing me that size of 244. Maybe you have to, well, we'll just see. Okay, there we go. If you hold the Alt key and then left click, like up here, for example, that means it's going to replace whatever is up here right there. All right, so if I left click once, and you see we've just gotten rid of that little eyeball part. It's not an eyeball, but that's what I'm going to call it. So as you can see, it won't really affect other layers because we're on a clipping mask. It's only going to affect what's inside this portion. So if I wanted to do that again, for example, let's say we just want to take right around here, Alt, left click. Oops, 1 second. Oh, okay, I was on the wrong layer. I have to be above. There we go. Alt, left click, maybe right around there. All right, so let's move to the next one right here. All right, so we see a duplication right here and here, that area. So if I take the move tool, Alt left click right on it, we have it. So all I have to do is take this clone stamp tool, maybe just come down here and then click right there. All right, so pretty easy. Next one I would say is these two. So take my move tool, Alt left click or Control left click. I mean Control left click, I'm sorry. And we select that, take our clone stamp tool, maybe come up around, right around here. All right. And I'm just looking to see if there's any other areas that look like it's kind of just duplicated right there, obviously. So select that layer. Down here as well. All right. This over here is real messed up, so because it's basically flipping on itself right and left. So if we select that, we can change this up a lot. Maybe come right here. See, just, real quickly doing that can change the look real quickly. All right, so I'm going to do that for the rest of these, and you can too on your own, and I'm going to pause this. All right, so I only made a couple more adjustments just around here, just so nothing looks blatantly, screwed up. So that is basically it for these panels. Now what I wanted to do is add a couple windows. So we're going to go back to CG textures for this. And let me navigate to the right section here. We have windows. And we have all sorts of different windows that we can use. I'm going to click on this one. And then just try this one out. All right, so go ahead and download the this, I think the 1600 by 1207 would be just fine. So if you download that and open that up in Photoshop, what we want to do is just take one of these with the rectangular marquee tool and just drag a rectangle around so we get the black as well, just for one of them. You can use any of them you want. All right, so once you've done that, we'll go back into our main document, and we're going to add it just on a couple, because I don't want every single one of them to have one, mainly to save some work. So I guess we'll go ahead and control left click on this one. This one will have one. All right, hit Control Shift N for a new layer, make it a clipping mask. Control V to paste. Now it's not going to show up because it might show up over here in the middle. Just drag it over. Control T, Shift and Alt, and just kind of try to center it up in this individual panel. All right, I'm going to go Image, Adjustments, Brightness and Contrast. Just turn it up a little bit. Hit OK. And then I want to roughen up the edges just a tad bit using the eraser tool and using one of these brushes. I think I'll use 90. And just going around it, making it appear as though, you know, it's like old and stuff, because these the exact edges don't look entirely correct that we cut out, basically. Just something like that. All right, so that's at 100%. Now I'm going to take that, Control A and Control C to copy it, and then we'll just choose another one to put that in. So how about this one right here? So select that top layer, Control Shift N, make that a clipping mask, hit Enter, and then paste it in with Control V, deselect auto select layer, and we'll put that right here. And then just to make it a little bit different from that window, we can play around maybe with the clone stamp tool. The size we got to take down quite a bit, and Alt left click maybe just over here. Yeah, that's fine. This one will be a little bit of a cleaner window. We can also go to Edit, Transform, Flip Horizontal. All right, cool. And also maybe center that up a little bit better. All right, so that's basically going to be the only windows that we have for this. And now what we want to do is go ahead and move on to our floor area. So we want to open back up the other document that we had, which is right here. And I'm just going to copy these areas again. And first I'm going to fill in the background color here beneath this UV layer so we can actually see the floor. And we're going to go ahead and at the top, on top, just go ahead and paste in. And yeah, let's go ahead and move that down beneath the UV layer so we can see. All right, so it's a good thing that the texture is big enough so that we don't get any of these seams in here. So what we'll do is just, I'll take this here and move it in right around there. And what we want to do for the floor, I believe this is the floor one, hopefully. And we want to make it look like it's kind of just like roughened on the edges, a little bit darker. So the way we can do that is, first I'm going to duplicate this layer, just so we have a copy of this to work for this one. So I'm going to just hide that one, and then I'm going to go ahead and take the elliptical marquee tool by left clicking and dragging out, and then just somewhere in the center, hit Shift and Alt, and then just scale it up just a little bit larger than what the UV is showing. And then Control I, oops, no. Control Shift and I will invert that selection. So we can hit Delete, just so we have an area that's pretty close to the UV size. All right, so what we want to do at this point is basically create a new Control-Shift-N clipping mask on this layer. Then what we want to do is take the brush tool, and we'll use that brush right down here. I think it's a default brush, like right here. And we'll increase the scale, and I'm going to see, you know, if 174 looks like it will work well. And just make our foreground color a little bit darker of a gray. And we will adjust this to the blend mode. It's not going to look just like this. And you just kind of want to vary it a little bit. All right, and then we'll go ahead and take the blend mode. So if we just left click it and then left click it again, we can see it's selected. Now we can use our arrow keys, the down arrow key, select move, then do that, and then we can see what, you know, what this kind of looks like. I like that actually, the overlay, because it's not too noticeable, but it does show a little bit of it being darker around its edges. All right, so basically now what we want to do is, and this, by the way, is what it looks like without that UV layer on there. All right, so now let's go ahead and get this back in view over here and position that layer just around here. And this is going to be the ceiling. Maybe I'll come up where it's less gritty, I guess you could call it. All right, we'll do the same thing there real quick. So we'll take our elliptical marquee tool, Shift and Alt by left clicking and dragging. All right, there, looks pretty good. Hopefully I don't cut off one of the UVs. And then we'll go ahead, Control-Shift-I to invert the selection, delete, Control-D to deselect, and then create a new layer. Make that a clipping mask. As you can see, I'm just going faster. I've already explained it enough, so hopefully you get the drift. And we'll take and do the same thing right here for this layer. So just going around. All right, and then change it to overlay. There. All right, so they're two different looking things. The floor looks a little bit more scuffed than the ceiling, which makes sense, obviously. And just for the fun of it, I didn't do this in the presentation or the preview of it, but just because I want to experiment. You don't have to do this, by the way. You could be done. I was planning on ending this texturing tutorial right here between, you know, both of these and the floor, but I'm going to add something. I'm going to take the brush tool, and I'm going to use one of my blood spatter brushes. And let's see here. And I'm just going to experiment with this because I want to see, I don't know, I'm demented. I just want to see what it looks like if we put some blood on the floor or something. All right, so, let's make that smaller maybe. Not that small. Yeah, okay, well, I think, yeah, we'll just click twice here. Change, ooh, no. Gotta back up there. I put that on the UV layer. That's a big no-no. I'm just gonna create a new layer up here and do that. And then change the blend mode. Yeah, maybe around there. Color burn seems to work well. And then maybe also do it over here on one of these. Let me just choose this one. Come at the top, create a new layer. Choose a different one. It's one that looks like it's like dripping down, I think. And by the way, I'll try to remember to link to these in the description of this video. But if I don't, all you have to do is just go to Google and type in Photoshop blood spatter brushes. It's basically, I'll be linking you whatever shows up there. I'm gonna try this one. take that scale down a lot. Okay, not that small. And then changes to color burn. I think I like darken for that one better. All right, cool. All right, now that is it. All right, so basically tomorrow we're going to step into Unity and bring everything together. That's going to be the exciting part. All right, so I'm Gary Simon of DesignCourse.com. Subscribe here if you haven't yet at YouTube. All right, so I'll see you tomorrow. Goodbye.